It's been a long time coming, but Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it's finally here. Launching on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. Today, I have a performance review for you all, breaking down how it runs on each system, covering visuals, any Switch 2 additions, handheld, and that all-important frame rate. With that, if you are new here, subscribe. I cover Switch daily, so it helps out a huge amount. And now, let's get into it. Just quickly then, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it's the full return of Samus in that classic Prime style, meaning first-person exploration, a whole lot of gunplay, scanning, large interconnected regions, and at the same time, a slower, more atmospheric approach that this series is known for. Now story-wise, I'm only a couple of hours in, but Samus arrives on this mysterious world. It's unexplored, it's filled with ancient ruins, and it's already teasing a whole lot of unusual aspects, think new psychic abilities that I'm really curious to dig into. That said, this isn't a review. Watch out for that on the channel in the coming days. Now though, let's get to visuals. Visually, I'll say right off the bat, the jump to Switch 2 is immediately obvious. On Switch 1, you're looking at dynamic 1080p when docked and dynamic 720p in handheld. And honestly, considering the size of the environments and the amount of effects on screen, it still looks really good for, there's no nice way to say this, for such old hardware. But Switch 2 takes every part of the image and sharpens it. So on Switch 2, you've actually got two modes. Quality mode, the game there targets a dynamic 4K image, and the extra resolution does a huge amount of work. Edges are cleaner, distant objects hold their shape, and the shimmering you see on the original hardware, it's basically gone. Textures across Samus's suit, rock surfaces, metal structures, they all look significantly clearer, especially in motion. Performance mode then, the alternative on Switch 2, it is a lower resolution, native 1080p, and the drop there is noticeable. It's actually upscaling to 1440p. You get basically a softer image overall as you would expect. There's a bit of pixelation here now around fine edges, and also just a general lack of clarity compared to that quality mode. It's not messy or unstable, but you can absolutely tell that you're trading here sharpness for speed. That said, for many players, that trade-off, it's going to be worth it, especially in fast combat where the extra responsiveness feels fantastic. Now in handheld then, on Switch 2, quality mode gives you native 1080p, and performance mode, it upscales from 720p. But both look far cleaner than anything the original Switch could hit on its small screen. Now outside of raw sharpness, then the biggest jump is lighting and materials. Highlights on Samus's armor are brighter and more physically accurate. Reflections have more depth, and environmental light sources from energy beams to general corridor lighting, it just casts a more convincing glow. Effects work also gets a noticeable bump. Rain, sparks, weapon fire, they all render with higher precision and far less blur. Shadows then are another area where Switch 2 just steps ahead. They're sharper, more stable, and you see fewer of the muddy or softened shadow edges that do pop up on Switch 1. That is especially true around large objects or in areas with multiple light sources. Put simply, Switch 1 is still holding up incredibly well for a 2017 device. It's honestly impressive what they've squeezed out of it, but on Switch 2, this might be the most visually impressive game Nintendo has ever put out. Everything is cleaner, more detailed, and more consistent, and it really sets a tone for what this system can do going forwards. Performance-wise, then I played on both modes on Switch 2, and honestly, buttery smooth across the board. Quality mode holds a clean 60 frames per second, and while I can't show you 120 FPS footage, unfortunately, I do need to work out the tech behind that. Performance mode just feels, well, as you would imagine, incredibly smooth. There's no hitches, no stutters, just Evo mode, ultra responsive. It is easily the smoothest Metroid has ever played. Now Switch 1 is actually similar in that regard as well. It targets 60 FPS, and for the most part it gets there. It is surprisingly stable considering the scale. Outside of the two visual modes, then Switch 2 does get a couple of extra features worth mentioning. First up is HDR, really nice addition. The game already has strong lighting, but HDR just gives it more punch, brighter highlights, deeper shadows, and just a cleaner overall contrast. It's not overdone, but it does make the image feel richer compared to SDR and the original hardware. You also then get mouse-style controls, which I tested and honestly implemented real well. If you're someone who likes that level of precision, or you're used to maybe playing shooters that way, you're going to enjoy it. But for most players on both Switch 1 and Switch 2, you'll likely stick with the standard setup or take advantage of the gyro aiming. It kicks in when you do aim, and it still feels great on either system. So overall, the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond runs great on both systems, but the Switch 2 version is absolutely the way to play it if you have that option. The higher resolution, sharper image, better lighting, faster load times, it all adds up to a noticeably cleaner experience, and the performance mode gives you that flexibility, really dependent on what you prefer. That said, I am genuinely impressed with how well this game holds up on the original hardware. It is a huge, detailed world, and outside of the occasional tiny dip that I kind of noticed very momentarily, it stays smooth and extremely playable. Honestly, one of the best performances I've seen out of the hardware in a long time. And yeah, let's face it, that honestly, given how many releases have been in poor shape recently, really wasn't guaranteed this late in the system's life. But on Switch 2, this feels like Nintendo's most visually impressive game yet. And if you ask me how I'm playing it, I'm going to be sticking with quality mode. I'm happy with 60 FPS, and when the game looks this good, yeah, I think it just deserves that gorgeous 4K output. Alright, with that, there's a review coming in a few days. Do watch out for that, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Now I am going to leave you with a little bit more frame rate as well as some graphical comparisons, but I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.